East of East of Kinnick Stadium, you'll find the state-of-the-art fieldhouse. The fieldhouse opened in 1927. As I'm sure you can imagine, the fieldhouse looks very different now than it did way back when. But it's different in a different way. The building itself looks about the same with a few new repairs and add-ons. But the main difference is the atmosphere. Today the fieldhouse holds 8 basketball and volleyball courts, 5 badminton courts, 2 squash courts, a cycling studio, a group exercise room, 8 multi-purpose activity rooms, 10 volleyball courts, a competition-sized swimming pool, which used to be the largest in the country when the fieldhouse was first opened, many classrooms, some locker rooms, a sauna, and the rec services office. It is also home to the men and women's gymnastic programs, sports camps, the Health and Human Physiology Department, and the Health and Physical Activity Department. These are the main attractions that continue to draw students to the fieldhouse. The fieldhouse hasn't always been like this. Believe it or not, something else used to draw all the attention to the fieldhouse. Some things that remain the same are the arched windows above the pool, and on the eastern wall of the main deck, there are pictures of what the fieldhouse was many years ago. The fieldhouse used to be the home of the Iowa men's basketball and gymnastics teams, the wrestling squad, and the Iowa swim and dive team. The fieldhouse has experienced many great moments, and many Iowa alumni have made memories in this fieldhouse that will never be forgotten. Throughout the years, the fieldhouse has taken quite the beating. It has been renovated once in 1985, and from time to time there will be a leak in the roof. The temperature in the fieldhouse has always been very hard to control, and people used to say the Iowa basketball team would have that as an advantage during home games because they were so used to the odd temperatures. Fans were never too happy to be stuck behind a steel pillar during the basketball games. The pillar was removed. Looking back on the pillar, I'm sure it was pretty obnoxious, but it was one of those iconic things in the fieldhouse, as well as the Herky the Hawk logo, which remains in the west side rafters. These basketball games were something else. Jim Zabel, voice of Iowa athletics for over 60 years, said, "It was electric. The place would shake with excitement. It was a definite home court advantage." Smoking used to be legal inside the fieldhouse. Legendary basketball coach Ralph Miller would usually be seen smoking cigarettes on the bench during games. In 1982, the Minnesota Golden Gophers were in town. It was said to be the Hawkeyes' last basketball game ever played in the fieldhouse because Carver Hawkeye Arena was almost ready for action. The game ended up going to triple overtime. I guess the fieldhouse just wasn't ready for the team to move on to Carver Hawkeye. People say even the craziest of games in Carver Hawkeye Arena are nothing compared to what it was in the fieldhouse. In the 1980 NCAA March Madness tournament, the Hawkeyes upset the Georgetown Hoyas in the Elite Eight to move on to the Final Four. It was an away game that evening, but even so, the fieldhouse overflowed with Hawkeye fans awaiting the return of their beloved Hawkeyes. On that same evening, the Hawkeyes wrestling team had happened to win the national championship. The team returned home to the fieldhouse and was greeted by the greatest fans in the world, Hawkeye fans. The fieldhouse produced many great wrestlers in the 56 years it was home to the team. They had 21 individual national champions, 72 All-Americans, and 7 team national championships. The Iowa gymnastic program has had their fair share of memorable moments in the fieldhouse as well. The men's team was a powerhouse in the 1950s, and the team placed 6th or better in NCAA tournaments 8 straight times. The team has 6 Big Ten titles, is a 9-time runner-up, and 1969 NCAA champion. George Nissen, former Hawkeye gymnast, actually invented the trampoline that is now used in many gymnastic events. There were some very historical moments in the pool as well. When the fieldhouse opened, the pool was the largest competition-sized swimming pool in the nation. The butterfly stroke was developed in the fieldhouse pool by Iowa coach David Armbruster. Jack Sieg, who was a breaststroke swimmer for the Hawkeye swim team while the butterfly was being developed, came up with the idea of the dolphin kick. Today there are not as intense games besides gymnastics in the fieldhouse, but intramurals are played there, as well as recreational basketball, volleyball, squash, and badminton. The fieldhouse had other purposes besides just sports. During the Vietnam War, ROTC trained in the fieldhouse. As a result, the fieldhouse was under 24-hour guard, but oddly enough, nor the police or National Guard were protecting the building. It was Harry Ostrander, Director of Recreational Services at Iowa. Ostrander had plans to tear the fieldhouse down in 2010 once the wreck was complete. This plan was to make more room for the UI hospitals. As the fieldhouse holds many classrooms, offices, and recreational uses, the plan to tear down the fieldhouse has been postponed or thrown out completely.